All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of Coffee Q&A here on the onocoffee channel. And today I've got this thing for you here. This is what's called, in America, it's called sumo citrus. And sumo citrus is a type of orange that I first discovered a few years ago when I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil. My hosts there wanted to take me to the big mercadão, which is their big public market. And as we're walking around, I came across a greengrocer, and this greengrocer was, wanted to give us a tour of all the different fruits that he had in season, and this was one of them. So how's it going? Hope you're doing well. It is Friday, the 20th of February, and you know what? This is episode number 540? Is that right? 540? Can't believe it goes by so fast. How you doing? Good to see all of you. So like I said, when I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil, we went to see that greengrocer, and he was letting me taste all these different fruits that were really, really ripe and fresh and like super delicious, like things like graviola. And one of the ones that he was really, that he showed me that I just had such a reaction to was one of these. Now, this is actually a fruit called dekopon, and dekopon is actually this is a fruit that originated in Japan, and it is a hybrid fruit that is it's a style of Satsuma orange that has been hybridized between what they call the Kiyomi and Ponkan citruses or oranges. And the original name dekopon is something that was supposed to be like the word deco for the hump, like a convex kind of hump. And then because it's from the Ponkan varietal, they call it dekopon. But dekopon was actually the original trade name in Japan. But much like a lot of different types of, what do you call this, trademark names, things like Kleenex or Xerox here in America, it kind of fell into public use and became more genericized. Now, this is actually, the generic name for this is actually called shiranui. And evidently, from what I was reading, that in Japan, as they had started to cultivate this, they started to grow them in different regions, they would actually have different names based on where it came from, right? And so that was something that I thought was kind of curious or interesting to know, because like, for example, if it came from Kumamoto, like if they grew it in Kumamoto, that's where it would be called dekopon, but because that's kind of where it started. But if you grew it in the Ehime prefecture, it would be called himepon, right? So they would just kind of change it. And then those that were grown in the more southern part by Hiroshima would be called hiropon. So so it's kind of funny that they would do. I mean, it makes sense. Now, this kind of fruit, they would actually start to develop standards so that if you wanted to call it dekopon, you had to have certain characteristics, like it had to be below 1% acidity and it had to be over 13 bricks of sweetness. So they're very specific characteristics that make a fruit qualify for legitimacy in Japan. And I've had a couple fruits in Japan while I was there, and some of them were just wonderful. It's the way they cultivate fruit can be very, very meticulous. And like even these, traditionally, or in the ideal way, they're grown in greenhouses so they can maintain consistent temperature throughout the year for the plants. And I was like, huh. But I never had the one in Japan. I've only had the ones in Brazil, which when I first had them, I was like, this is amazing. It's the orange that I love. There's two different types of oranges that I really have loved over the years. There is an orange from, well, they don't grow them anymore commercially. I think there's still a couple of trees that are still up. But when I used to live in Honolulu, they used to have a orange that would come out in January every year from the Kau district of the Big Island in Hawaii. And I remember years ago when I first saw them at the grocery store, I was like, what is it? What's going on with these oranges? They are all like ugly and like busted looking. Like they were all like they look dirty and like rotting. Like the skin just looked all mucked up. And I remember I was talking to one of the greengrocers there, and he was like, the uglier the fruit, the better the flavor. I was like, what? And I had it, and man, and it would come back in January, February, that'd be the end of it. So every January, I was looking forward to these oranges because to me, they were the best flavored oranges I'd ever had in my life. And still today, if I could get that orange, like that's super ideal. And this orange is as close to the flavor of those CQA oranges that I used to eat. And so that's why I was super excited when I had this. And he was like, yeah, it's called dekopon, it's called shiranui. And then I was like, man, I wonder if we have this in America. Because evidently it's cultivated in Japan, it's cultivated in Brazil, just outside of Sao Paulo, and it's cultivated in California. I don't know if it's cultivated much elsewhere in the world, at least not commercially. So if you have a chance, and now this time of year here in the United States, under the Sumo brand from California, these are available, but they're only typically available sometime from like late January to like early March, or maybe up to April, and then they're gone for the rest of the year. So now's the time to stock up. And I've been eating them over since they started coming out several weeks ago, but I decided to wait until now because when they first came out, right, like I mentioned that the fruit from Japan has to meet certain standards, under 1% acidity and above 13 bricks in sweetness, which is just sounds like a fabulous tasting orange. In America, we don't have those kind of standards, right? While these are always really good, there is change. So the ones that I started eating, like when they first came out in January, they were bright, they were a lot brighter, they were more tardy. Now, part of the reason we're doing this show today is because the recent one, the ones I had last week and earlier this week were like, they're getting sweeter. So I think we're kind of like, we should be in the right zone for the flavor of this shiranui. Malcolm is with us. What's going on? Good morning to you. And Kent, how are you? Good to see you. And Naomi as well. Sumo oranges taste more like tangerines. Well, I believe that there is those two. What are the two that I said? There is in here. It is a hybridization of the Kiyomi and Ponkan varietals, and they have been described as Mandarin. So I think they're all somewhat related. But I do agree. Like to me, what I liked about the CQA oranges, they do have that kind of mandarin-y kind of character to them, right? I think that's a really, or tangerine-y kind of thing. I like that. I like that. And then there is a third orange that I like, and there's an orange in the Philippines that I've never seen here in America, but I get it when I'm there, and they call that one dalandan, and the flavor is somewhat reminiscent to this, and if you go to the farmers markets in Manila and there's usually a juice vendor and they've got this dalandan juice, man, and they've already pre-squeezed it and they've got these huge tubs with these big blocks of ice in it. So it's like super crispy cold. And I was like, man, gosh, that is just, if I could have that flavor here, that would be really, really great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make the drink, which is basically, it's called Espresso Sunrise, which is just another term for that drink we've tried in the past where we're taking citrus fruit juice and mixing it with espresso. Very popular in Thailand, and I think it grew a little bit in popularity in different parts of the world. But I call it the Nosso de, I can't remember what I wrote. I'm very bad at Portuguese, but I looked at it because really the whole journey with the dekopon, with the shiranui, with the sumo it started from my trip to Brazil. So I thought, well, we'll just name it that for today. Now, why is it called sumo in America? Because evidently when they saw the fruit, because of this bump here, they thought it looked like the knot on the top of the sumo tori's head. I guess you could see that. But I mean, it's a fabulous, and the nice thing is that unlike some oranges that I get from Florida, these are very easy to peel. You just basically grab the top and I just pull, and it just comes apart it's so easily. It's such a joy to peel. I mean, look at that. It's just so easy, and it separates. It's really lovely, lovely. So we're gonna make this drink, and we're gonna peel some oranges, and then make some espresso, and put this aside here so I can have a little bit of space. All right, so we've got our orange, and as you can see, I think it comes apart so lovely. This rind is a little bit thinner than the ones I've had. Maybe they've been sitting around. Maybe they're drying out. You know, I mean, these were probably harvested a few weeks ago, probably sitting in a warehouse. You know, such is our commercial production. And you know, here's the thing: like I said, when I started eating these several weeks ago, they were a bit on the tart side. And that's the one thing. Like when I went to that greengrocer in the market, wow, all of the fruit that we had there. And actually, I have a video down in the description below to that to my trip there. It's actually the artwork, the thumbnail says mortadella because evidently in Sao Paulo, they're really into mortadella sandwiches, and that's kind of why we went to the Mercadao to check it out. But here, look at the fruit. Look at that, like lovely fruit. Very. All right, let's see how it tastes today. Oh yeah, very. Like Naomi said, a lot of tangerine-esque qualities to it, but with big fruit. Like I think part of it's like I like the tangerine mandarin aspect of it, but I also like the big orange cells, right? Like the thing of that, the thing to me that's nice about oranges, they're just big. And tart. It's definitely tartar, I think, than what you'd have in Japan. I don't think this is at the 13 bricks level. Also, the skins are thinner or they're easier to chew. Man, that's good. Maybe one more. I will house this entire orange before ever utilizing it the way that we're expecting to today. Okay, so let us get our juice going on. I don't really have somewhere I have this big Rashond hand juicer that I was going to use because I really like it, but I couldn't. I don't know where I put it. So I borrowed this from my aunt. This is her Omega juicer. Omega juicer. Really, my aunt Josie's very into like juicing. Like she juices all kinds of stuff. Like she's always coming with a juice concoction. So I kind of stole this from her. Hopefully she won't notice. I'll be returning it today. Okay, so it's a very simple. Well, to me it's complex, but overall it's very simple. You've got this feed tube here, and then you remove the collar, right? And inside here is like an auger, and there's a basket. I'm not going to take it apart because you know what? I just borrowed it, and I don't know how to take it apart. But it should be fairly simple. Somehow yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that. And then what it does, it separates the juice from the rind. So I believe the juice comes out of this port and the rind comes out of there. And then you've got this feeder tube that you put in there. It's all black, so you really can't see it. But as you can see, we've got the two ports. So I have these containers, and at least I'm presuming that this port that is angled down, sharper than this one, and because it looks like it's coming from, I'm presuming that is the juice port, and this is the waste port. Okay, so it's plugged in, and we're going to start to make our reverse. Okay, not reverse. So let's do one slice. Oh, wrong side. Okay, so that's not the case. This is the waste. This is the juice. Oh, this is kind of easy. Oh no, that's the juice. Oh gosh. I thought there was some juice coming out of here, so I thought that it was the way. I guess not. All right, let's go around here. Okay, now we're rocking and rolling. All right, let's put this in here. Will that fit? Oh no, you got to take the slices out. Now we're gonna do more. That's a decent amount of juice, don't you think? Never says I have a manual juicer and therefore don't use it much at all. It's it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But also, I think that the nice thing about the manual, and we actually use the one that I'm talking about, we use at the shop. So our staff would make all the juice by hand, which is probably a little bit sadistic of me now that I think about it 10 years later. But, you know, when you're like pursuing cuisine at what you think is a high level, you do kind of crazy things, right? Okay. Plus, the one thing about making juice like this, it's always like you need a lot of fruit to get a lot of juice, and like a lot more fruit than you think you need to get the juice that you want. Huh. All right, the pulp is coming out. You know, and I might try to see if I can dehydrate this pulp. Oh, look at this one. This one doesn't have very much of a bump. That's unusual. I always wanted to buy a juicer by a company called Champion. They're like they're supposed to be one of the very best. Like some of my chef friends have them, but I never bought one. Just because we never really juiced a lot of stuff, so I didn't really have the need for it. Oh, that's quite a bit of juice. All right. So maybe 3 will be good for us. Okay, that's good. That auger really does pull it down into the chamber. Oh yeah, that's quite a lot of juice. Wow. How does it taste? Oh, it's very fibrous. Makes sense because it's just really the skins. And interesting enough, they're very fibrous tasting, but also not much flavor. I think we're done. All right, good. Let me put this aside. Well, well, well. We've got quite a bit of juice now. Look at this thing. Look at that. Oh, I can't really see anything, but wow, that is. Gosh, that looks nice. It's like I'm really tempted to just, suck on it, but I'm gonna be a little bit more proper. Let's clear off this. Oh, you know what? Let's see. What does this taste like? This kind of foaminess. Yeah. Now, remember in Japan, I mentioned that Japan citrus has this kind of minimum standard to be called dekopon, which means it has, or whatever the name they call it, 13 bricks and less than 1% acid. This is not that. This is definitely not that sweet. It's probably 8 or 9 bricks at the moment, and it's definitely more than 1% because it is still a bit tardy, but I think that'll be fine. It's still got lovely flavor. Ken says, I'm off to the gym. Have a great weekend. All right, Kent, have a great one. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so now we're going to make the drink with it. And we're going to take our coffee. So it's really just going to be a very simple approach. We're just going to pour in. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this foam. Mainly because I do think that the foam will detracts from the overall experience. So I'm just going to skim that out. Oh, yeah. And now you can see here. You can see here there's actually very pulpy. It's very pulpy. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by pulling a test shot to make sure that we've got everything, in order. As always, we want to look here, clean out our basket. Make sure that it runs clear, meaning that there's no more bubbling. You can hear the bubbling. Okay, that's good. All right, that looks pretty good. That's some bouldering here as always, a little bit of low spots there. So, and then very high up here in the back quadrant. So now it's really about coming around a lot further and sweeping that around. Right, like that. Okay, good. Give it a nice twist, and now we're nice and clean and ready to go. Let's see how this is going to look. I like to hold it up like that, right, until I see that the stream falls. That helps to reduce the amount of spillage on the side, although it may shoot out a little bit. I think we'd probably I feel like that's a little bit. I feel like it's fast. I don't know if it is. Maybe it's not. Let's see. Not bad. It actually looks quite nice, this shot. Right, look at that. Looks pretty good. Can I zoom in more? There we go. Paige says sumos are like $2.50 to $3. Oh yeah. There. So that's why here's a little trick for you. If you want to buy the oranges, if you go to the regular grocery store, they're like $2 to $3 a piece. Go to Costco. Oh yeah, this is a Costco. This is a Costco packaging. It's I think like $1.50 each at this point. So you buy them about a box of 6. Much better that way. All right, this shot now looks okay. That looks pretty darn good. Let's see what it tastes like. Nice, some bitterness. I think that bitterness will play well with the oranges as a contrast. All right, let's have a try. Let's give it a try. We're going to give it a try now. Let's go back. Flush it out. Then we take a feel. Yeah, that's good. That looks good. Good resistance. Oh, maybe a little bit over, right? Look at that. Maybe went a little bit over. So anything going on this weekend for you guys? I don't have too much planned. I'm just at home, I think. Okay, that I ended up dosing more than the last time. Then it's lower here than there. So I'm just going to come around and just fill that in. Work it around just a little bit more. That's a little bit much. So I'm just going to take off a little bit just like that. Come back in and give it a nice polish, a flick. Now what we're going to do is, so I'm going to put that aside because I forgot we need to prepare our juice. So we're going to take the juice and pour it in. I'm going to leave the pulpy matter because I think that's might be interesting. Right? Oh, look at that. That's kind of attractive looking too. Let me. Now we're just going to pull the shot on top of it to get this Espresso Sunrise. Why they call it Espresso Sunrise, I don't really know. I think it's kind of got this, there'll be a gradient. Let's check that flush one more time. I'm going to take the spout off so that it doesn't interfere. There it is, it's starting. Will it float across the top? I'm hoping that the pulp will help it to float and give better separation. That doesn't look very nice, does it? That looks a lot looser. Huh, that shot. I thought there was more coffee in there than the last one, but that shot does not look as nice. All right, bring this over here. Huh. Okay, so how does that look? Right, that, I don't know if I like the way that looks, but here from this angle, interesting, right? There's a little bit of this gradation. So I think that's a fairly positive looking. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. So the experience is that as you're sipping, of course, we're going through the espresso first, and then we're getting the orange juice. Now you can make the orange juice cold. Like this is not that cold; it's just kind of room temperature. But you get that, especially if it's colder, you get that kind of like hot and cold, chill and hot kind of thing, which is I think kind of a interesting temperature experience. Actually, that's very pleasant because as it's entering your mouth, as it's hitting your palate, the espresso is coming in, but also the uh, the orange juice is actually coming underneath it, right? So you're getting these two layers of flavor coming into your palate, and then it mixes on your tongue, which is actually quite a. Yeah, like there is a good interplay of the flavors. There's brightness, there's sweetness, there's bitterness, there's hot and cold. You know, we've done several variations on this kind of drink. This is probably the best one from a flavor and experiential kind of perspective. Plus, there's the pulp still in the fruit. That's quite nice. Kyona's here. Aloha late to the party. I hear you. I hear you. Welcome. Welcome. Here they usually serve it over ice. That they make a difference, though. That they make a difference with the way it stays separate. You know, I mean, here's the nice thing is that as I'm drinking this, now there has been some that has fallen down here to the bottom, but I think probably because of the pulpy matter has helped this to like stay somewhat separated, which is actually better because it's like having that separation really gives greater depth and complexity to the experience. Like this would be something to offer to guests. Like this is wow, that's actually really nice. I'm actually more surprised at how much I'm enjoying this. Like the other ones that I've had that were like this were good, but this just the way that it's delivered in this particular case just gives so much more experience out of it. Like there's just so much more complexity, so much more depth. What term comes to my mind is that there's a level of sensuality to this drink experience, right? Because there's so much at play here. Like typically when we get drinks, they're not layered. They're just kind of all like combined, all homogenized. The flavors are combined as one. Like this is like you're getting like this interplay between the bitters and maybe a little bit of that chocolate with the sweetness and the acidity. And then there's the pulpiness to it. And it's concentrated in a way that you don't want to chug a lug it, right? Like you don't. This is something that you might want to. I could see myself sitting there at let's say at a coffee bar with presented service, just kind of sitting there enjoying the experience, but also exploring the experience, right? Like this is one of the few times that I've had where I would, if I and like, I that I would be having this, and I'm thinking that I would be interested to sit here and contemplate the drink as I'm drinking it. And I was thinking also that like, well, let's say you're with friends and you want to go out and have an experience, and let's say this is a menu item at a coffee bar that you went to, and you're with let's say if there are three of you, and each three of you ordered the same drink. Now, this is probably the same way it happens in restaurants, right? But I think that even though you may order the same drink, it's still going to be a very solo personal experience because each shot pull is slightly different, right? They're not, and the juice may not always be the same for each of you, or even though you're making them succession. So I wonder if it's possible to have a singular experience, or it's always going to be, or I wonder if it's possible to have a truly shared experience, or will it always be singular unless you share the same beverage? But even then, with this kind of approach, how much you tilt the glass and suck onto your palate will determine the ratio, will change the ratio of the espresso to the orange juice. So you could never have, like, even if you shared the same glass, you would never have the exact same experience. Now, perhaps that's the same if I think about going to restaurants, like you may go to a restaurant with your friends and have a tasting menu and share the tasting menu items, right? The same meal, and all be amazing courses, but it won't be exactly the same. Right? Maybe I'm just overthinking it. But in this form right here, if this could be reproduced, I think this kind of thing is very menu worthy. Like I'm like, well, I never felt that way about other orange espresso drinks. Like they're cool, kind of novel, interesting to offer. But this is truly something that I'm like, wow, I believe this would be an experience worth having. Jenny says most people, including myself, were skeptical when I first tried it, but me too. I was totally like, what? And like I said, I've had this in the past. We've made it here on the show a couple times in different forms, but this really is the first one that's like, whoa, like I'm gonna finish it. Oh, here's interesting, right? As we get so remember, this is what I think is interesting about this drink. Now we started out with very clear separation between the two layers. As time went by, some of that espresso went to the bottom. And we would see like this little teeny tiny thin of espresso, the orange, and then the espresso here. Now that we're here and the liquids now are truly commingling, the flavor experience has changed again. This last sip, man, actually had like milk chocolate tones to it. Let's see if that's going to be true again. Oh yeah, God, that's crazy. Wow. All right, that's again, now the experience has changed again, right? Like where early on, when the layers were still present, you'd be drinking it, and the layers of espresso and milk and orange would come through separately on your palate, and then you'd mix them. But it's mixing on your palate, but you're still thinking of them as separate. And then the temperature juxtaposition is also on the palate. Now at the bottom, everything is combined, right? Like everything, look at you see it, everything's combined here. Same temperature, same flavor. Now we've gone through this whole progression, and it's still very complementary. It's very. So where we started out with opposing or contrasting temperatures, textures, flavors, now it's evolved into a whole complementary oneness. Like I'm really, really like, that is just crazy. Oh, wow. Wow. That was something I was not expecting. Peter's with us. What's going on, man? Monopole, you don't have to monopole to me, man. That's what you do to old people. I'm not that old. Although I gotta say, so what Peter's referencing in Filipino culture, there's something called manopo. And po is the terminology or is the term you give to elders, right? As a sign of respect, like sir. Mano po means that you're taking your mano, your hand, and you're taking the hand of your elder like this, and you're putting it to your forehead. You hold it with a palm like that, and you pull it to your head, and you do a slight bow while you do it, right? Because it's a sign of respect. You do that to like your grandparents, your older aunties and uncles, in a very hyper traditional sense. In America, we don't really do that. Well, not sometimes, when I'm in and it's kind of funny because as I got older, right, and my cousins had children, when I would go to the Philippines, they would do that to me. Because really you're supposed to do it of anyone of older generation. It doesn't have to be a certain age. And after a while, you just kind of get used to it. You just kind of hold out your like, okay, good. Bless, thank you. But yeah, that's funny. That's funny you say that. That's good. So let's see here. Let us look here, and what is the icon? I can't see anymore. I can't see if it's like this or if it's like that. Anyway, we've got this other shot from earlier, and I'm just curious to see like how will it. This is going to be more homogenized, I presume, and it won't be the same experience. But let's mix it together, kind of in a 1-to-1 ratio, and see how it's combined now. So it'll probably be very different, but it might be a good way to see like how the experience may. I'm going to presume. I'm making this presumption now that the experience will not be as significant as the last one. Now, of course, the bitters are super pronounced in this one for some reason. I don't know if the orange juice has dove under it and has somehow formed somewhat of a layer, but it is also the espresso has been sitting for however long it's been taking me to eat this or to drink the other drink. So it's all cold now. It's all one temperature. Yeah, it's definitely not the experience that we just had. Like this is not. Yeah, that's not. Now, interesting thing, we squeezed 3 oranges. So let's say it took us 2 oranges to make this. Because you can't just do 1.5 oranges. So it takes you 2 oranges to make this drink. Plus the shot of espresso. So let's say the shot of espresso costs us $1. The 2 oranges cost us $6. So we're already at $7 in cost. We had to be a $15 drink. That's not too bad, right? Handmade in a beautiful setting. All right, that was a hell of a drink. I gotta say, that's one of the best drinks I've had in quite a long time. I'm quite surprised. So here's the thing. So I would have to say, these are only available here in the United States for just a short amount of time longer. Maybe by April they'll be gone. So maybe 1 more month of orange deliciousness. But I would say, if you're in other parts of the world, like I don't know, especially those of you who are like, if you're in, I don't know where they have in Australia, but let me see here. There is. Especially those who are in Southeast Asia or in Asia, whatever. Oh no. This silly. Okay, so we have this thing here. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a fruit in the Philippines called dalandan. And here is a little bit about it. Right, that's what it looks like. It's citrus aurantium, sour orange. Man, but the flavor is so beautiful. I cannot get this in America. Like this is just not even available here. But I would be very, very interested to try this particular fruit. Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid between the pomelo and the mandarin orange. But if you can find this fruit, dalandan, sour orange, or it's called citrus nobilis, this would be a great one to try. To see if you wanted to try something that would be very similar to this, I think this would be great. Or if you happen to go to Hawaii next time you go there, Keone, like if they happen to have any more oranges in Ka'u, that would be great too to try. Keone says the ratio I feel works is about 2 to 3 juice to 1/3 coffee. I think that was probably close to the ratio we were using here today. Let's see. I did take a photo. So, oh, I did not take a photo from that angle. That's not a good thing. Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, that looks somewhat. That looks somewhat. That's yeah, probably yeah, close enough. That's probably about that same ratio you're talking about. I think that's a great. Like if this is what holds up well, and I don't know how when in the times because you're in Thailand, I know it's very popular in Thailand. Is this kind of how they present it? And is that the kind of experience that you get? Is this layered effect with the hot and cold? And I mean, like that was just really like that was really great. That was really significant, right? Like now it makes me want to open my new shop and like get to doing like seated tastings again. Oh, even that's not too bad. Maybe a little bit more juice would be good. Yeah, that works. Even that is very fun. So here's where the difference is, I think. Now they've got to a better ratio, probably closer to what Keone is saying, 2/3 to 1/3 espresso. Even in a fully mixed format, it's still a fun drink. It's a fun drink. It's not the. I think the way this turned out was very interesting in the presentation and the experience of it. This is fun. I think that's my thoughts on it. All right. So anything going on this weekend? I'm actually going to a bat turning, bats tomorrow at the wood store. At the wood store, they're going to have bats. Show you how to make a bat. I don't know if they're going to let me make a bat. I would like to make my own bat. I don't know what I would do with it, but it'd be kind of fun. At least check it out. Keone says it is layered, but usually served over ice. I guess because iced coffees are popular due to the heat. I think that like the ice would be great. Like for this version where I say that it's just fun, it's a fun drink. I think ice would be great. Right? You get in the ice and then eventually you kind of slosh it around. Like especially if you put it into a boba type of cup that it was totally sealed with the film and you put a hole through it, and so you could shake it up. I think that'd be great. But I don't know if you saw the early part of this, but this thing where like let's say you had this like even it's fairly I don't know if it would work as well in Thailand because it's fairly warm, but here it's fairly cold. And so it's probably like 60 some degrees in my in my house. So it's like, well, it's kind of chilly. That's why I always wear like a sweatshirt. And there's good temperature juxtaposition between these two, right? That layering effect is really, really a pleasant experience. But I think that, and I think that I would not, if I was doing this drink, I would not ice it. I would chill it. Maybe chill the fruit. Maybe keep the fruit refrigerated and then squeeze. So it's got a stronger temperature juxtaposition. But this one, just as it is at 60 some degrees, was plenty of temperature difference for this flavor experience. Plus, I think that maybe if it was colder or a lot colder, because a lot products that's a lot colder tends to dampen your taste buds, right? So it probably wouldn't be as pronounced. But that'd be interesting to explore more. Like if we were to move to this to being like a menu item, for example, I would want to explore that a little bit more to see, is there a better temperature to keep the juice to get that differential, right? All right. I guess that's all that I have for you today. Good to see all of you. Oh, Jay Ramos with us. Good morning. Would that work with calamansi juice? Man, you need to go try it and report back. Make a video. Let me see, because God knows I would like to try that because, I don't know. It would be very sharp, right? Calamansi juice is very sharp. Like you would I'm just going to go off the cuff here and just totally hypothesize, but if I was going to make this with calamansi, dalandan, That's where I think you should go with it because I can't get that. I can't really get calamansi here very easily. But with the calamansi is super tart, right? So even if you were just to squeeze this calamansi juice, it's not terribly pleasant just to drink the juice by itself. So I think that would be too harsh, right? Like, so when we have calamansi juice at the restaurants or like calamansi shake, they always mix it with sugar to sweeten it to reduce that tardiness. I think if you use calamansi in that way with a little bit of sweetener to it to offset that, I think that might make for very. I mean, it's worth trying either both with the sweetened calamansi juice and without the sweetened calamansi juice. I think it's worth trying to see what works best. And of course, now one thing to bear in mind also is that the type of espresso you're going to use is going to have a different impact on the overall flavor of the drink, right? Like the espresso that I use is designed to be very like robust in body, has a lot of chocolate notes, a good amount of bitterness, nuttiness on the finish, and maybe slight hints of fruitiness, right, throughout the drinking experience. So if you're using something that's very lightly roasted, very bright kind of characters, flavor characters, that's going to have a different interaction with the whatever juice you're using. It may be better. It may be different, right? So it's always this is where the craft of being a barista comes in, and this is why I think we cross a lot over with aspects of culinary. Is that you really have to think about all of your ingredients in a holistic way. Now, in this kind of situation, here on this show, this is really much more of a serendipitous kind of event, right? Like I thought that the espresso pairs incredibly well with this fruit. It could have easily gone the other way where it didn't work. And there's a different variety of reasons why that could happen. Now, also another thing to pay attention to is the condition of the fruit. Like I was mentioned earlier on that I had been eating, these come out at the beginning of the year, like January to like maybe April at the most, at the latest. So it's a very limited time window. And I waited until now because the fruit that I had been eating at the end of January was a lot tartar, a lot more tardiness to it than the fruit now. And I presume that the fruit in a few weeks, as we get closer to the end of the season and as this fruit matures in the warehouse more, the sweetness will develop a little bit more. Now, like I mentioned earlier, in Japan, there's a very specific specification for the fruit to be called, I think it's to be called dekopon. No, there's a certain word for it to be categorized as, but that fruit has to meet less than 1% acidity and over 13 bricks. So that's a very different fruit than this, even though they're the same varietal, right? Each of those factors are going to play heavily into the final drink. So you kind of have to figure out or test around and play with it to see like, how good is this, right? Like if I was in Manila right now, tomorrow morning, I would be at the Salcedo Farmers Market going to I'd be going to my juice vendor there and buying like probably 2 or 3 dalandan juices because I love dalandan. And I would, go maybe to somebody's coffee shop and be like, hey, let's pull some shots on this, on this juice. Right? So, but yeah, keep those things in mind though. And this is really where the difficulty in all of this comes in, is that there's so many factors at play, especially when you're talking about fresh juices, right? It's like, oh, there's a lot of, I think that if you get commercial juices, that's going to be mitigated. That variation is mitigated more because a commercial producer, a commercial juice producer is trying to make a commercial product that's going to be very consistent so that their customers know that, oh, my juice tastes exactly like this, whether they have it today or in 6 months, right? So those are some of the things you might have to play with, but I would definitely give it a try. Definitely give it a try. Keone says, we have sumo oranges here, but they're really less expensive. Oh, okay. I mean, less expensive. That's good. Because here it's $3. If you go to the Wegmans or the grocery store, it's like $2.50 to $3. If you buy it like this in a flat from Costco, I think it's like $1.50. It works out to be like around $1.50. So a little bit better. But man, this time of year, I'm just sucking these down. It's really like I don't care about the price because, like, well, you know what? I'm not going to eat oranges the rest of the year. Peter says, I tried avocado coffee in Bali. Whoa, what is that all about, man? Is it like avocado juice with espresso drink? It's a cold espresso drink. Okay. Watered down calamansi you might try. Yeah, give it a try, man. I would love to hear your results with the calamansi because, like I said, we don't really have calamansi here. I do have a bottle of the calamansi juice syrup, drink syrup. It's a drink syrup. I bought it when the last time I was in Manila. I've never used it. It's still sitting in my pantry. I really need to use it, but yeah, we just don't get it here. Like I hear they have it in California. You can find it in California. My mom had a calamansi plant that never bore fruit. I think one of my aunts might have one that has some fruit, but it's super tiny. You're like, what is that? Peter says, I've got calamansi in my garden, messy tree, massive thorns. The birds, oh, really? I didn't know they had thorns. I tried to cultivate a calamansi tree 2 years ago at the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C. I was down there for a bonsai event. And they had this big calamansi tree in the herb garden. And since the event was in May, the tree was in full harvest. Like it was totally like, the fruit was orange, and I was like, oh my God, look at that. And I was like, I need to try to cultivate that. But I don't know what the legality of pulling fruit off of the tree at the National Arboretum is. So I was like, but since it was super ripe, fruit is falling off the tree. So there's a couple of calamansi fruit on the ground. So I was like, well, I'm like stuffing my pockets with all this like down fruit. Then I went home and I cleaned them up and I squeezed them all out. I had a little bit of teeny tiny juice. I was like, so terrible. So terrible. I shouldn't say that on the internet because ICE might come for me after this. All right. Yeah, give it a try. Let me know what you think. I really would like to know if you were able to try it with, let's say, calamansi or dun or any of the other fruits out there. I am interested because, while this sumo citrus is really great, really enjoyable, I think maybe in other parts of the world it'll be interesting to see like how different either the same or similar fruit will be. All right. Good to see all of you. Thank you very much for hanging out with me as always. Back again after the weekend on Monday with more of the coffee Q&A. So hope you have a wonderful one and see you next time.